is up, everybody? Adam here with Cover Band Confidential in my car. This message is for the singers. A couple of weeks ago, posted a little cover by a band called The Darkness, which is now apparently the #1 classic rock song of all time per some magazine in the UK. And definitely got some comments and some emails about how do you do that. I decided to shoot this in my car because typically if I am playing out, this is the location where all of this happens. And the subject for today is warming up and just vocal exercises in general. This is in the morning, and I'm currently drinking the literal worst thing you could put in your body for singers. But we're just gonna do our best and see how we do. So I know a lot of you are musicians that sing, but don't necessarily see yourselves as singers first. And in that thought process, you may be neglecting certain things that you should be doing in order to get your voice in peak condition, in order to do your best on the shows that you've got coming up. Typically on my way to a gig or after load in, I come back to my car and I've got an MP3 of some warm-up scales that I do for anywhere between 10 and 20 minutes depending. The way you want to think about that is the amount of time that you are singing should be subtracted from the length of your warm-up. So if you've got a longer gig ahead of you, you would warm up less. And if you've got a shorter gig, you would warm up more. So I'm not going to necessarily go through all of those things today, but I wanted to go through some of the things that have helped me increase my range and work through placement and that kind of thing, which are all the things that you need in order to sing higher, sing with more confidence, and honestly, sing softer. I think a lot of people think that in order to sing high, you've got to sing loud or you've got to push. But I don't find that to be the case. And the exercises that I primarily do start with something called vocal fry. If you don't know what vocal fry is, it's basically the sound of you singing your lowest note and then going lower than that. Basically, it's your vocal cords just kind of slapping together. It's this sound. Doing that on your way to the gig is just a great way to bring blood to the vocal cords and kind of get them ready to do their thing. It's not something you should do all the time. It's not something you should do a lot of, but in general, I find it helpful to kind of get my whatever this apparatus is in the right space in order to start warming up. And typically, the way that I do my warm-ups is either doing lip bubbles, this sound, or like Z's sound, but almost always kind of with my mouth closed or kind of not very open. And this is not one of those things where you need to worry about whether you're doing your vibrato in your warm-ups. It's not supposed to sound good. It's supposed to just get your mechanism in the right space to hit notes, sustain them, kind of, it's a good time to work on, pitch accuracy and that kind of thing. But it's something like zzz, kind of slide down and then work your way up. So if you're doing 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, zzz, up again, zzz, zzz, those kinds of things. Once you kind of get a general bass level kind of flexibility in your voice, another thing I like to do are sirens. Now, sirens are the thing that taught me how to kind of harness my upper range in a more, I guess, usable way. And what that sounds like is starting from your lowest note, going as high as you can, and then back down over and over again. So, whoa, whoa, just doing that over and over again. And you can do it to notes if you want to. You can do it with a keyboard or do it with like pre-recorded scales. But what you're trying to do, where the rubber meets the road in that particular exercise, is something called the Passaggio, which is the transition between your chest voice and head voice. And strengthening that is what allows you to sing something that is, would typically be in your head voice, like, hey, with, hey. That is the mechanism that helps you do that. So practicing those things, especially in a car, is great because there's nobody here. No one can see you, no one can hear you. they may be able to hear you, but you're just a crazy person in the car next to them, and they don't care. They're on their way to do whatever they're doing. So those are the things that I would recommend for singers who are just kind of getting started. If you really want to dig into this and improve your singing overall, I would highly suggest checking out other videos on YouTube, or more importantly, seeing a professional vocal coach. There's so many of them. You don't have to live in a town with a vocal coach. Many of the great ones, including Jamie Vendera that we've talked with on the podcast, do Skype lessons. That's almost his entire business is remote lessons. But the other thing I wanted to talk about is something that I think that even great singers don't always do, or miss doing, or don't think about doing, and is very detrimental to keeping your voice in shape and just feeling better the day after a gig. And that is cooling down. So I know there are plenty of great singers that do warm-ups, and it helps them and they sing great, but then they still wake up the next day and they feel kind of like hoarse or sore or whatever. And the reason that happens is that you do this very, challenging vocal work, and then you don't stretch out at the end. It's just like running. So you stretch before you run, then you do your thing, and then at the end, they suggest you stretch some more or do a cool down. And for runners, that's typically trying to get your muscles back into the zone of not being stressed out and kind of relax them a little bit. So cooling down vocally is the same thing. So what that looks like, or what, I guess what that sounds like, is starting at the top of your range, but lightly as you can, and just sliding all the way down to the bottom of your range. So something like, maybe not that dramatic. So you can do it during the loadout if you're not worried about embarrassing yourself, but typically I do it on the drive home. And what that does is it kind of takes those vocal cords that might be slightly inflamed or stressed out, and kind of gives them a nice kind of transition back into, normal. Because typically after you sing, you either aren't speaking or you're going to sleep, and then your vocal cords just sit there overnight. They're just like, so doing a cool down at the end of the night, typically you'll wake up the next day and you'll either feel better than you did, or you won't even notice it at all. So that's my advice for singers who are just kind of getting back into the swing of things. Where I am, dates are starting to open up again, and we are trying to get back into fighting shape. And if you follow those tips, you should be in good shape and ready to go the next time you get the chance to play a show. That's going to do it for today. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Click the notification bell to get alerts when we post new content. And also check out our podcast. We're at over 100 episodes. All of the information will be in the description below. Have a great week. We will talk to you later.